It's the kitchen table with Ember and Bloom R&R, and today's hot topic is sex isn't a big deal until it is. Catch us online. Hello and welcome back, everyone. This is Roxanne Harris with Ember and Bloom, and joining me is the ever lovely Robin Parr.
Hello, everyone.
And welcome to the kitchen table. Grab yourself a cup of coffee or tea or water. We're going to have some great conversation today, always unpacking all things menopause related. And today we want to do a little deep dives. We're going to spend a couple of weeks in Love Month going through some of the more tumultuous, let's say questionable, disturbing, upsetting things that menopausal women and menopausal couples go through. And this has been a topic on my heart for a really long time. And I have so many conversations in my clinic with clients about sexual health, about intimacy in their marriages and their relationships, and how, as menopause creeps in, starting around the age 40, 45, challenges start to appear in the relationship. And things that were never a problem suddenly become a problem. And the big sex is one of those things that, sex is not a big deal for most couples until it is. And it's almost like it just sideswipes you, where you get hit out of left field, and something that was so familiar, something that was comforting, that was exciting, that was passionate, that was a way of communication and showing love, just becomes something so foreign and alien and starts to create problems within the relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so often I think that we often think that women generally think of sex as a or like a later thing. There's always precursors. There's touch. There's engagement, and all the things that lead up to it. But I've been reading a lot about it lately, and it's not just women that have an emotional attachment to sex. It's actually men that do, even though we think they don't, that, the act of actual sex is intimate and it's what forms the bond. But a really fun fact for y'all that I didn't even know is that if you continuously turn your husband down for sex, it actually creates an emotional barrier there.
Mm-hmm.
So we talk about, men having erectile dysfunction, things like that, but it actually can also be caused by emotional problems in the marriage. So, if you're always saying, no, I have a headache, I'm not into it, I'm hot, I'm cold, I'm this, I'm that, over time, even when you're ready to have sex, a man can sometimes not perform because of the emotional barrier there. It creates this thing in his brain, like he's not good enough, he's not attractive, all the things that women actually go through and feel.
Yeah, and this is why, we really always want to be talking about the menopausal couple. And yes, our focus really is on the women. Women, are, again, understudied, under-researched. Medical advancements for women are dramatically underfunded. But when we look at the menopausal couple, like really understanding that what we are going through as women is also impacting our spouse, our children, those around us, people at work. So everybody experiences menopause through the light of who we are and what's happening. And I think the emotional thing is really key. We talk a lot about how for women, You know, physical engagement, intimacy is like 95% here, right? If we cannot get our minds off of the dishes, the laundry list of things that need to be done, you know, that we're late with this, we're late with that. How am I going to arrange the carpool? We will never be able to engage in a sexual encounter, right? We're just going to lay there and be like, okay, just, you know, be done with it because I have other things to do. And many women don't understand that this begins to happen to men as well. So there, I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about andropause because there are some pretty great Facebook groups to support men through that. But it becomes an issue for men. And, you know, I mentioned this before that men become very self aware and self conscious about their performance. And if their wife, the love of their life, is, you know, going a bit off the rails, right? And we were maybe more emotional, we're maybe more snappy, you know, we're maybe derogatory or negative a lot in our comments. We don't like things that we used to like. It seems like our personality has changed. We're not sleeping. We're not coming to bed. You know, we're always something happening. It also puts a stress on the man as the partner in your life that's there to fix it, and he doesn't know how to fix it. So he tries to fix it through that emotional connection, through intimacy, but he's met with a stop sign, you know, every step of the way, right? And not just with a no. Sometimes women in menopause can get downright nasty, right? They can threaten to, you know, cut it off, or you know, lock them out of the room, or you know, the big D word if you know they're ever touched. But yet the sexual encounter is one of the things that women still crave the most. And we're begging to be loved, we're begging to be accepted, understood, you know, nurtured, and yet we're pushing away the one thing that for a woman, if you can truly just let the stuff go, right, and get out of your laundry list in your mind and actually connect on a deep and intimate level with your spouse, have a big O or three or four, right? It really can shift things mentally, emotionally, physically, can shift your hormones, just your whole perception of what it feels like to be a woman. And in fact, you know, Robin, you and I were talking about this a couple of days ago, how in the bedroom, in the sheets, in between the sheets, is really where a woman should feel comfortable, confident, she should feel sexy. And as menopause comes into play and women start moving into postmenopause, it's one of the spaces that a woman feels the least attractive and the least sexy and the least connected. And it's creating this massive problem within the marriage, because at the top of the show, you know, he said sex isn't a big deal until it is. And now the one place where formerly you might have got that emotional connection through falling asleep in each other's arms or a head on the chest is now like backs towards each other and icy and cold. And you're laying there going, you know, what's wrong with me? While he's laying there going, what's wrong with me? And both having the want and the desire, but shutting each other out and saying it's not a you problem, it's a me problem, but refusing to have the communication and the connection to make it better.
Mhm. And often it's because, you know, if you are a lady that has continuously said no, 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 and secretly you want yes, 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 and you want him to pursue you because as women that, you know, it really does make us feel needed and wanted. But you're turning that off in your husband by saying no all the time, and he's waiting for you to give him the right, you know, signal for him to pursue or for you to pursue him. So he feels that he's wanted and needed and desired. And so both of you are waiting for that to happen. And you might be waiting a long time because you're creating this, you know, barrier between you. You flip each side, and then he goes to sleep and you sit there and cry, and the emotional distance becomes more and more, because often in our youth, we were busy with kids and household and running around and stuff like that. And in the bedroom is where we regain that connection. So if we're not doing that, and we don't have the excuses of small children waking up in the middle of the night and all the other things, where are we reconnecting? Are we happy with living like a roommate or worse, in our later years?
Well, and it goes back really to the communication, right? And, women, ladies, we're so fascinating, right? Like, we really want our spouse, our Mr. Wonderful, to be able to read our minds and just know. And it creates a bit of a situation because women, as I mentioned last week from Dr. Egeridge, the Love and Respect series that he did, women speak through pink megaphones and they hear through, pink headphones, and men speak through blue megaphones and hear through blue headphones. And that sounds silly, but to understand that pink and blue are not the same color and don't necessarily connect or understand each other. And other women, we can start talking about how we're feeling or what's happening, and they just know, like, mysteriously, oh, I know. And right, and they bring up 100 examples of the same thing, or they know that just what you need is a nice cup of tea, right? Or a little handful of flowers that they picked from the ditch. But women just know. That's because we all speak from pink megaphones and hear in pink headphones. We understand the communication of women. We understand the body language, right? When have you, and open this up, put this in the chat, but we've all been in a situation where we've seen someone, maybe they're a close friend, maybe they're not, they're an acquaintance, and you just see the mood and they just need a hug, and you just go up to them and you give them a hug, and it melts their heart and it changes their day, right? Whereas men are like, whoa, I'm staying away from that, right? So they're going to go into their man cave. They're going to go into their nothing box. They're going to shut you out because they don't know how to engage with that. If we would just be brave and put on our big girl pants and say, this is what I'm looking for, it would change the situation so quickly. And especially when it comes to emotional connection and bonding. Why are we making the men guess what we want, how we want to be touched, how we want to be kissed, how we don't want to be touched? Ladies, if you don't like him, playing with your hair, say something instead of going, oh my God, please stop playing with my hair, right? If you don't like it, say something. Right? Like,
and if you're afraid to say something, just guide his hand to where you want it to be. And that's our biggest, flaw, is we have all these. My husband and I talk about this all the time, how I have such a romanticized idea about a lot of things. It's not just about our relationship, but we see the world through our pink lens, and we do think it should be like the movies, and disappointed when it's not. And I said to him, well, I don't understand why it can't be like the movies. It's just, doing these things that would create that environment. And he says, yeah, but you have to tell me. And that's when I got like, yeah, I'm expecting something. I want him to be like the leading man on this romantic movie, but I'm not telling him what romantic is to me, and how I can help him be that way.
Yeah. And that's really the rub. I think, we can create our own beautiful life. But part of that beautiful life is the communication of what it looks like. And if you and your spouse are literally on Venus and Mars, right, where is the central part that's going to join you together, right? So it's the love. Well, how do we focus on the love? How do we let the love grow? What's their hopes and dreams? What are my hopes and dreams? Just because the hopes and dreams might look different doesn't mean you need a divorce. It means that you have different hopes and dreams and you need communication. And then when you're together, you need to be together. right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you really love traveling, but your spouse does not, right? And they would rather, mow the lawn for 12 hours on a Saturday, or, shovel and sweep and de-ice the sidewalks all day on a Sunday, right? But you want to go to the beach, or you want to go walking through Rome or something. The conversation needs to be had. It doesn't mean that you need to separate and live separate lives, but it does mean that when you're together, that you are actually together, that you hold hands in public, that you gaze into each other's eyes, that you make time for each other. You do things together, you eat meals together, and yes, you get in bed together and you have fun together, you laugh together, you hold each other, and you communicate the need. Maybe more than anything, you don't want sexual intimacy, but you just want to be held. You need to say that, right? And often when our love bank gets full because we're held and we feel the connection and we feel that emotional bond, it might lead to something else. But the sex is never going to happen if we're wrapped up in but I just want him to hold me and all he wants is sex. And now we're not on the same page.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and communication. We keep, trying to nail that home, and it's for both. It's not just we're bashing the women here, men, we need to encourage them to share, and it's really hard for men. They are really literal beings. What they say is what they mean generally. Um, but they need to communicate to where they're at and what they need in a relationship. It's really hard to get that out of them because they don't spend a lot of time thinking and dwelling on things like that like women do. How often have your husband's asked you a simple question and you've branched off to 20 different things, like, are you ready to go? Well, no, I got to do this and this and this and this and this. And they're like, wow, like I just said, are you ready to go? Right. They don't have that, road. Their roadmap is just like a nice 2-lane highway and it's just going down the road. And ours is like a massive intersection, like in California, where there's all kinds of exits and everything, right? So we need to have that kind of communication. We don't maybe necessarily need to tell them all the things, but think about in your brain, what is the most important thing to, it's like talking to your kids. If you sit there and lecture and go on and on, like you lose them. You have some really great conversation, really good points, but they're sleeping. They're not even engaged anymore because it's too much. And it's the same as our husbands. We need to just kind of zone in and nail in what are our top 5.
Yeah. And it's great to mention the kind of the nothing box for men. So they are very linear in their thoughts. They don't have a lot of, clover leaf patterns and exits and roundabouts. They really just, they think about one thing and they act on it. And they do have something called a nothing box. When a man says to you and you're like, what are you doing? And they say nothing, it's the absolute truth. There is something called a nothing box, and most women cannot fathom this place because it doesn't exist for a woman. Men can literally sit there and think about absolutely nothing. And then you say to them, oh, you're thinking about nothing, like not even a white wall. And they're like, thanks, because now I'm thinking about something, a white wall, when I was thinking about absolutely nothing. But women, our minds are like a call center circuit board. All right, where there's wires and cables and lines like everywhere, and everything kind of feeds into the main point. But what is your main point? So if you need to go off the rails a little bit, give them a heads up. You know what? For the next 10 minutes, I just need to activate my circuit board and shut down some of these wires, right? That's a great conversation, because now they know they've got no responsibility just to sit there and occasionally blink. Right? And you're not looking for anything from them. You're not asking them for anything other than just to be that sounding board, so that you can come back to the main operator tab, right? And this is my problem, and this is why I'm upset. And the reason that all of this has happened is because, well, you don't love me. What do you mean? Well, we haven't had sex in whatever, 4 months. Okay, but that doesn't mean I don't love you. It's because you've had a headache and then you were on holidays and then you were at your mom's for 2 weeks and then, right? And they go through the list and they're like, hey, but we can fix that right now. Instead of being a crotchety woman, you could say, yes, we could, right? And you could jump in and you could fix that. And so it's fascinating that, like all things, right? Sex is not a big deal until it's a big deal, right? Maybe you've been in a relationship where your spouse only wants to have sex once or twice a month, and that's been how it's been for 10, 15, 20, 30 years. But if that once or twice goes to once or zero, you're going to notice. And now it's going to become a big deal. Sex is a stress reliever for women and for men, right? So it creates this huge emotional bond, right? Where we do feel beautiful, we feel loved, we feel seen, right? Accepted, valued, validated, right? And we get this emotional connection that allows us to open up so that we can actually have an orgasm to release endorphins that make us feel really, really good, right? And so when we're tired and fatigued and brain fogged and low functioning, a good, romp of mattress dancing can really bring you back to life and help balance and stabilize the hormones, reconnect you, plug you back in to life. One of the things that your adrenals need more than anything is to feel alive, that life is worth living, that life is pleasurable, that life can be filled with joy. It's not just work, 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 and stress and pain and whatever, but it can be very enjoyable, right? And sexual intimacy is one of those ways. And if you're not able to orgasm, we need to talk, because ladies, you're missing out. And I'm not going to be shy about saying that.
Mm-hmm.
It is a release of massive amount of endorphins, of these hormones that help to balance the body, reduce stress, send feelings of, some of them are called like the cuddle hormone, for example, where you're literally feeling loved. But if you're here and in your head and you're stressed right out and you're just doing the motions as a favor to your partner, you're not getting the release. And then you still feel frustrated afterwards and go, well, that was just a waste of, 5 minutes of my life.
And he feels it too. He can
Yeah.
totally tell when you're engaged, even if you're faking it. I'm sorry, he can tell. And I don't know why women don't want that for themselves. So if it's not working, instead of giving him the 5 minutes, tell him, okay, I'm stuck in my head. I need help. What can we do to bring me to you? Like, I need like some more focus. And women, we got to get out of our heads, because we can be full on in the act and all of a sudden think about, oh shit, did I put the laundry in the dry? Like we totally sidetrack ourselves, because remember, we got the 6-lane highway going on in our brains, and it totally removes yourself from the situation. You go through the motions and then you're like, I'm going to get up now because I got to go put something in the dryer. And it's like, what? I mean, come on. Like, we have to get back to how we were when we were first courting and dating. Everything was about each other and engaging, at least during that kind of time, and making time for each other and for yourself. If you're not allowing yourself to have that kind of experience and emotion, you are literally keeping your body super tight. You'll feel it everywhere in your body. So you're not having a release. You're going to have emotional effects. Someone will say something to you the wrong way. You're going to be crying or raging at the drop of a hat. You'll have headaches. You'll have body tension, back pain, shoulder pain. Sometimes in the women, you get hip pain. And it's all due to keeping yourself in this tight little ball that's not allowing yourself an emotional release. How many ladies, hands up or put in the comments, have had a super stressful week, or something really bad happened, and then you have a totally engaging, loving, love-making session with your husband, and you have such a release that you actually physically cry.
Yeah. Right? That release of emotions. So, really, an orgasm is a release. It is a release of emotions. It gets the emotions, right, moving, flowing through your body so that you can actually access the prefrontal cortex where you can have rational thoughts. If you're being really irrational, right, connecting with your spouse might be a really great idea. So, the distraction, how do we get there? How do we maintain that connection? And so when I'm counseling women in my clinic, I'm like, when you're with your spouse, and you're engaging in sexual intimacy, that is your sole focus. You have to keep your attention there. So whatever, let's say he's kissing your neck or something and you really like it, focus on that, right? You shift your entire attention to the sensual feeling, right? Because especially if you're like, oh, the laundry, no, that feels good, that feels good, that feels good. And keep bringing your brain back to that spot. And one of the ways to get into it, actually, one of the ways that I use is dance. So if I'm really kind of in a funk, but I know I need something and I want intimacy, I'm going to start playing my music for hours before, right? So I'm going to put on some of my favorite songs to, dance around to, songs that are more about love and having fun and those kinds of things, and get myself worked up into that mood. And I'll tell you what, stop waiting for your Mr. Wonderful to pursue you. It goes back to what we were saying in the beginning. Like, if you keep giving him the stop sign, they're going to stop pursuing. They're just going to stop. They're going to become depressed. They're going to be sad. They're going to think it's something wrong with them. And they're going to go into their nothing box. And that's where they're going to stay, because they do listen. And if you say no long enough, they're going to stop asking, right? And so pursue. Go and get changed. Put on your high heel, knee high, thigh high, whatever, leather boots and some lingerie. Put on nothing and come down in your stiletto shoes. Who cares? How about you pursue? Because there's something very exciting about a woman pursuing her lover. So even a depressed, defeated man will be aroused by your pursuit. She wants me. And it's amazing and it's exciting. I mean, I think it can't always be one person, because that always then just puts it on one person and the other doesn't feel validated or loved or accepted. But if you're in a rough rut and you haven't engaged sexually with your spouse for weeks or months or, heaven forbid, years, you better get after that. We know that the research says that if you have not had sex with your spouse in a year, the likelihood of you ever having sex again is about 0%. And it usually ends in divorce, right? It's not because the grass is greener on the other side. It's not because you don't love each other. It's because you become roommates that are no longer communicating. So you're sharing a house and they didn't take the garbage out one too many times. So you're giving them the silent treatment, and you're both living your own lives under the same roof and then complaining that neither notices the other, and that there's no communication and no touch.
And women, Ember and Bloom is all about being flourishing and thriving and becoming and powerful in our later stages of life through menopause and beyond. Not meek and crying about symptoms and stuff all the time, trying to give real life solutions to help manage those and work through them, but to just be powerful, be the matriarch. All the posting that we do is about becoming yourself and really tapping into that powerful. And how powerful is it to walk down and strut down in some lingerie and pursue a man? I mean, come on. It's not only a turn on for him, but it's also a turn on for you because you feel alive and powerful. It's like the panther, like how sleek and majestic and beautiful, right?
Well, and sometimes I think we forget about those things. And, I'm a Christian. A lot of my friends are Christians. And Christian women, honestly, are some of the most stuck women. It's almost like they feel that they're not entitled to pleasure or their pleasure doesn't matter. They're just there to serve their husband. Let me be like so clear about this. First of all, you all need to go and read the Song of Solomon's, because that is some very suggestive and explicit material in your Bible. Secondarily, right, if God did not want us to experience pleasure, why would he give us a clitoris that is not a multifunction tool like a male's penis, as Robin likes to say? So a male sexual organ is a multi-purpose tool. It urinates, it ejaculates, it's got whatever functions. The clitoris, the only known function is pleasure. It has absolutely zero other function. The head of a man's penis has about 4,000 nerve endings, which is why it's very pleasurable when it's touched. The woman's clitoris has over 8,000 nerve endings. So if you've got over 8,000 nerve endings that all scream pleasure, why are you not using them? And not only that, but actually in our Renaissance Christmas, we did this great little deep dive into intimacy and orgasm. And we looked at the way that the clitoris is designed, and it's got these legs that go deep into the vaginal walls, which is why through penetration, it can also feel very stimulating, because we're still stimulating the clitoris through penetration, right? So you've got this tool that God gave you, that the only purpose, the only known medical purpose is pleasure. And some of the women think that pleasure is not for them, that it's not biblical, that they're not entitled, that it doesn't matter. And I'm telling you, it matters. And there are so many great books written on this subject, or groups, or there's even therapists. Some physiotherapists are trained, right, in vaginal wall toning, so that you can bring more tone into the area so that you can enhance pleasure. And these are things that as women must be talked about, because I'm really like flabbergasted at the number of menopause groups, perimenopause groups, women's groups in general, that just bash men and talk about sex in such a derogatory, negative way. It's alarming to me. It's supposed to be a beautiful activity between two people that love each other, that provide intense emotional bonding and connection, and this release of endorphins that literally make you, right, fall in love with each other over and over and over and over, and fill your hormone cup so that there is balance. And also, ladies, sperm has testosterone in it. Testosterone is required by women, first of all, for mood management, anger in particular, but also for libido. You want more libido? Have more sex, like for real, that is known. That is a known fact. The more you're stimulated and you're getting those little drops of testosterone, the more you want it, the more you crave it, the more you desire it, the more you see your partner, your spouse, your husband, your lover as being desirable.
Hmm. Yeah, and I mean, we're missing out on some of the best parts of what God created us to be. He did not create us to be alone. He created us to have partnership and to be together, united as one. And, what a better way to feel united and as one as in lovemaking with your spouse. There is very few species that actually make love for feeling, and we happen to be one of them. And it is such an engaging, wonderful, beautiful experience. If you're not having that with your spouse, then you need to find out why that's happening, because you can't go through your whole life well, you can, but what a sad thing to go through your whole life and miss out on that.
Well, and I also want to say, like, we're not here to, condemn or embarrass or make anyone feel bad if that's not what the relationship is like. At Ember and Bloom, as Robin was talking about, like, our desire is that you would live your best life in bloom, that you would flourish, right, through your menopause and beyond, right, into your post menopause, up to half of your life, that you have the tools to flourish and be alive. And it's not just about survival. If you are in survival mode, we need to talk. You need to come to one of our upcoming retreats, because survival mode is not living. If you're constantly under stress, nothing's going to feel good, right? You're going to even actively push away the things that feel good to keep yourself stuck in that rut. And then you're going to collect a friend group that does the same thing, where you're going to lick each other's wounds and massage each other and say, well, yeah, that's just the way that life is. Men just use us and abuse us. And you're not going to get the conversation that allows you to grow and expand your thought processes, your relationships, your intimacy, your communication with your partner. I want to challenge women to rise up, to actually be the beautiful woman that God created you to be. And part of that is sensuality. I'm not talking about smut. I'm not talking about, watching crap on movies. And that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about you owning your femininity and being proud of your body, loving your eyes or your cheeks or your hair, or you like your shoulders, you like the way you look, and you like the way you move. And if you don't like these things, having the support and the tools through our beautiful community of Ember and Bloom, like us, follow us, because this is the information that's going to move the needle and allow you to grow. We
Mhm.
don't want to stay the same. And as menopausal women going through this massive transformation, why would we want to be the same? We can't bring the 20-year-old woman with us into our 50s or 60s or 80s or 90s. There's a disconnect there.
Mhm. Yeah, and we crave the fountain of eternal youth. We want to look like we're 20, but we're not acting like we're 20. And I'm not just talking about like being like, partying and stuff like that. I'm talking about actually enjoying life, because if there's one major difference is, besides being reckless, they're actually living their life to the fullest. They're doing all the things. And, some of the things that happen when we get older is we get a little bit shyer about that kind of stuff.
Mm.
They become conversations of, I can't, or I wish, or whatever, instead of just trying to do something
Or
at
I
where
used to.
we're at. What's that?
Or I used to.
Yeah, I used to. Yeah. So if we want the fountain of youth, it doesn't just revolve around the beauty and the youthfulness of our face. It revolves around mindset. And we have the greatest thing that, there is that we have the experience, the education, the knowledge, all the things, and then we can still have fun on top of that because we'll actually maybe be safer about it. But we need to have fun in our later lives. We keep pushing the ball back and back, and it's like, when I'm done this, or when I have this much money, or when I accomplish this, and that someday may never come. So that's the same in our relationships. When once I get this out of the way, or once I get the promotion, or once I do this, and then the relationship just keeps getting pushed back and back and back, and then all of a sudden you're looking at each other and going, well, who the hell are you? Because you haven't grown together as a couple. You keep growing, but you're growing, farther and farther apart.
Well, and if your relationship is the most important thing to you, then prove it. I mean, we prove what the most important thing to us is by our actions and what we do and how we show up.
Mm-hmm.
So if your spouse is not the most important thing, we all know it, because you're never with them, you're never home, you never talk to them, you don't hold hands in public, we don't catch you stealing a kiss or a glance across the room. We don't catch that. And you mentioned something that was fascinating to me, and I call this external embellishment. So think about a banana, right? And taking your glue gun and sticking all of these jewels and bedazzling this banana, right? And while you're doing that, the banana is continuing to ripen, and then the banana is completely rotten inside. But don't worry, it looks fantastic on the outside, right? And we do this, women become so involved in that outward beauty to make them look like they're 20 years old. And the person they're supposedly doing it for, their spouse, they're completely ignoring. They're getting bedazzled and bejeweled in the hair and the lashes and the nails and all the stuff on a regular basis. And there is absolutely zero intimacy at home. So who are you getting all bedazzled for? What are you trying to attract? How are you showing up? Right? It's not about the bedazzling on the outside. It's about the condition and the state of our heart, and who we are and how we want to show up and how we're going to be known in this world when we pass. Ladies, what is the legacy that we are leaving and passing down to our children and grandchildren and great grandchildren and beyond? How are we showing up for them? Right? Mm-hmm. And if you're always too busy to show up for your family, what do you really have? If you're always too busy to show up at bedtime and to sleep with your spouse, you're probably not having a lot of intimacy. Mm-hmm. If you're always too busy and you've got this meeting and that meeting, and you can never tuck away and have a dinner or a date night or a picnic on your family room floor or a movie night or a bubble bath together, it's creating a disconnect in who you say you want to be versus how you're showing up. And then it's showing, and we become more and more emotionally distraught. We become more and more physically distraught, and it starts showing. So we need more and more bedazzling. So now our hair is graying and it's falling out, and our skin is looking crepey and like garbage. And now we're getting wrinkles, and now our skin is tenting and fragile. And now we've got aches, and now we've got pains, and now we definitely can't have sex because my hips hurt or my knee hurts, or I can't go dancing because, my feet hurt. But we're not taking care of the things that can release the endorphins that help to bring healing and harmony to the systems in the body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that is a big question that I always wonder, is why that we're so involved, like we were talking about in the beginning, with impressing our partners, doing the things that we don't necessarily like, or we don't know we like. So we're willing to do more things with them. And it's not just about dressing up and looking beautiful for them, but, the activities, doing some of their interests, cuddling. We make so much time. We talk about them to death, to our parents, to our friends, to whoever will listen. And then we just taper that off, and we talk about our friends or ourselves, and the husband or the wife becomes, the latter part of the conversation.
Yeah. And so, today we're really talking about, sex isn't a big deal until it is. And, our hope of, what you might get out of this is understanding that intimacy is important in all stages of our life. So even if you think about a baby, right, that's cuddling with a parent or nursing, breastfeeding, they're having an intimacy. It's a skin to skin contact that's helping to release oxytocin and feelings of safety. Obviously, that shifts as we grow. We're not really intimate as a child or a teen. But as we grow and become adults and we get married and whatnot, then there's the sexual intimacy component that should continue for the rest of our lives. And so if you're giving up on that, I would ask you to reconsider. Look at the questions. Why? Why have I given up on intimacy? And be brutally honest. And when you answer that question, why you've given up, ask another question. Well, why is that important to me? And when you answer that question, ask yourself again, but why is that important? And do that 5 or 6 times until you get at the crux of the matter, right? Because we all want to feel valued. We all want to feel loved. We all want to feel needed. Nobody wants to feel alone in this world. And it's horrible to feel alone in a house with the former, right, love of your life, or the person that you say is the love of your life, but you have no connection with. If you haven't had intimacy with your spouse for years, right, this is going to be a slow process because you're going to have to start making small non sexual touches, stroking their shoulder, holding their hand, a peck on the cheek. You look wonderful today. Oh, your eyes, they're alive today. Oh, I love your smile. Small steps to bring you back to that intimacy. And it's very easy to blame the other person. He doesn't, he says, blah, blah, blah. You have to figure out um, a, a ground that you can both stand on together. If you were madly and deeply in love with them once, you still are, you're just not connected. You're just not communicating. Robin, you mentioned this, that you said when we're dating and when you're early in a relationship or a marriage, it's all communication. You're there, you're eye contacting, you're touching, you're kissing, you're holding hands. You might even just be laying there watching the stars, but you're there and you're together and you're focused, right? Do some of those things. I can't even emphasize enough. Put on your long johns and some mitts and go outside and stargaze, cuddle under a blanket, pull out your lawn chairs or your chaise lounge, whatever. Make a snow angel together, laugh, have fun together. One of the things I like to do, coming up to be about that time when we get a little bit warmer, is I like to go out and make a whole bunch of snowballs in advance because I'm slower than my Mr. Wonderful. And I get all ready for this. And then as I see him pulling up, I put on all my stuff and I kind of hide, right? And then when he gets out of the car, I just start whipping snowballs. Why? Because it's hilarious. And it creates a lot of fun. And sometimes we need a little bit of unexpected delight in our lives, which usually ends with him tackling me into a snowbank and laughing and, kissing, and you're so crazy and I love you and all of those things. But when we're thinking about intimacy, it doesn't necessarily mean jumping in bed together. It's about creating intimate moments and memories that reconnect your hearts and your souls and make you fall in love all over again with the person that was all that and a cup of tea and cherry on top and the whipped cream and the whole shebang, the full meal deal when you got married. You've just grown apart. You've been living
You need to play with each other, have fun. And that breaks down barriers and walls faster than anything else. At first, sometimes though, if there's been a big gap. Sometimes it's not taken well. Don't give up. Don't just get all feelings hurt and think, "Oh, I tried to do what you said and my Mr. Wonderful wasn't receptive." Try again. Try gentler. Try something else. Maybe, there wasn't a mood or he wasn't ready for it and took him off guard, but play with each other. That's why we talk about the date nights on the Ember and Blue page on Saturday nights. We give suggestions how to play, how to engage, how to create intimacy without the expectation of sex. Because when you play and there's intimacy and you share things, and you're not talking about kids and the job and the housework and the chores and the next to-do list, that's where intimacy, because when you first start together, you're not talking about those things. You're just playing and having fun.
Yeah, I mean, you're not talking about those things because you literally don't have those things.
Well, some people do.
I mean, some people do, but right, you really try and stay focused. So generally what I like to say is have rules for your date nights. We don't talk about the kids. We don't talk about the dog. We don't talk about, my mother, like whatever it is. And sometimes if you've not been on a date with your spouse for a long time and the intimacy has been waning, you don't really have a lot to talk about, right? And it's okay. Hold hands across the table and stare into each other's eyes, right? But resist the temptation to go to easy. Yeah, that was crazy weather today, right? I don't ever want to have a weather conversation on a date unless it's my Mr. Wonderful telling me he's taking me to a beach by an ocean somewhere and how hot and lovely it's going to be. But I don't want to talk about the weather. I don't want to talk about the traffic or the kids or how many accidents the dog had. I want to be connected. And in the stage of perimenopause and menopause, we're talking about 45, 50, 55, 60, 70, 80 years of living. Sometimes we're like, well, I have nothing to talk about. Well, that is not true, right? So you can ask each other questions. Now, on our Renaissance Christmas retreat, we gave these little date night cards. And you can find these all kinds of places at bookstores and online. And you can get books. My husband and I love the Adventure Challenge. So these are different kinds of books and you can check them out, but you scratch something off and it tells you what you're doing on your date. And the only rule is whatever you scratch off, you got to do. And sometimes, to be honest with you, I can get in this mood where I'm like, I don't want to be surprised. I just want to know what we're doing. Right? Like, I don't want to scratch the thing because I just want to know what we're doing. I don't want to be doing something that's stupid. Okay. But that's a me thing. And it's always been a fun. We've had some of the most amazing adventures simply because we dared to scratch off a date night thing and actually follow through with it. We've met the best people. We've been to the most amazing restaurants that we would have never, ever even known about. We've seen some of the best movies. We've done some of the best arts and crafts, simply because we're just in the moment. So if you don't know what to do to bring back the intimacy and the connection, I highly encourage you to do a date night challenge. Either get some scratch cards. There's different, like almost coupon books, a his and a hers that you can give to each other. But the Adventure Challenge is a brand name, and they are books, and they've got multiple different ones for different types of people or lifestyles. Like maybe you live in the city, or maybe you're into like more outdoorsy kind of things. They've even got some for traveling where you could have adventures while you travel. And those are a little bit more, I mean, they're for people who really like to travel and like to have those big, bold adventures. But I recommend it because, again, and Robin, you said this, but having fun is the fastest way to reestablish an intimate connection. Laughing together, being silly together, is just so much fun.
Mm-hmm. And try it during a big argument. If you want out of an argument, rip your shirt off or do something crazy to create laughter. And honestly, no man can talk when you're ripping your shirt off. or laughing. Like they might be taken back by it at first and a little bit, but it's not going to last
But
long.
no man is ever going to say, put that back on. Like it's one of those things. And, we've both done it, my husband and I, where, we just grab the other person and just start kissing them all crazy and whatever. And it just ends up in a lot of laughter and that kind of thing. So, be bold, ladies. Ember and Bloom were about creating your beautiful life, flourishing in your renaissance, the second half, this most beautiful half of your life. And part of that is deciding how you want to show up. And so for the next few weeks, as we've done last week as well, we're going to be diving deeper into the topic of intimacy and all of the parameters, the barriers, the things that are coming up for menopausal women. We'll be getting into the whole, dryness and pain and just things that are really going to help move the needle for you so that you can experience your best life. Now,
and if you have something that you want us to talk about or touch on, put it in the comments so we can work it into the show.
Absolutely. And one of the things, drum roll, that we want to talk about, and so it's here, it's coming. We mentioned this in the fall. We mentioned this during our retreat. We've been mentioning it on our Ember and Bloom Facebook page. Please like and follow us and share us with all your friends. Is that our Midnight Bloom Meno Gala, our menopause gala, is on. And so we're going to be releasing the tickets. This is going to be in the Ottawa area on Friday, February the 27th. And it will be live and in person and so freaking awesome. If you are a woman over the age of 40, 45, this is your night to shine. And so this is a gala event. We want you to dress up and put on those stiletto shoes and maybe some lip gloss if you dare. But we want you to come, and this night will be revolutionary. You're going to learn some amazing things on how to love yourself more and the changes in menopause. So it's going to be an experiential night. We're going to have some really amazing speakers that are going to present on various topics that are close and near and dear to women's hearts, like maybe changing body shapes, how our hair and our skin has, fallen out and being a disaster. And then we're going to be able to have consultations with these experts as part of your ticket and learn specifics for you and for your body. We're also going to be having some really nice glam shots with one of the most phenomenal photographers to really show how to bring out your beauty and showcase your beauty and just help you to see what a gorgeous, beautiful, radiant woman you truly are. This is a to not miss event. It's not just about primping and being beautiful. The information that you are going to learn is going to transform the way that you are flourishing in your menopause and in your renaissance and moving into creating your most beautiful life. So watch for it. We're going to start plastering it everywhere. And Robin and I, Ember and Bloom, we would really appreciate you sharing the link when it comes live. We're toying with the idea. We haven't solidified it. So for our out west peeps, we are considering an event in the Edmonton area right after, at the beginning of March. If this is something that you're like, oh yes, count me in. We want to count you in. Let us know. Reach out to us. Comment on the post below. We are so excited about this retreat or this gala event because it's really leading us into our premier retreat that's going to be happening this summer in British Columbia in the beautiful Okanagan Valley at the prime of fruit season. And do we have a couples adventure for you. This will be something that will sell out very quickly. The spots are very limited. You're going to want to watch for the pre-sale coming up. And hot tip, everyone that comes to the Midnight Bloom Meno Gala, the Menopause Gala on Friday, February the 27th, is going to get an early pre-sale access to the retreat in BC, in the beautiful Okanagan Valley, also known as Fruit and Wine Country. Robin, it's going to be the event of the year.
The location alone, stunning. You're going to wake up and think, is this my real life? It's just such a calm, serene, all the things. You're going to think you're on a tropical destination, but yet in the heart of the Okanagan. And man, there's just so much to do here between wine tours and picking fruit and all the things. So it is a definite do not miss.
Yeah. And so if you want connection, intimacy, communication in your marriage, if you want to know how to improve the awesome marriage that you already have, if your marriage is on the rocks and you're thinking about cutting the sheets, splitting the sheets, you need to be at this retreat. It will be absolutely life-changing for you and your spouse. We're so super excited. But February 27th, mark your calendars, the Midnight Bloom Meno Gala. And this will be an event that you will never forget. And you will walk away honestly feeling pampered, loved, seen, valued, and that you truly are a radiant, beautiful woman. And we're so excited for that, Robin.
It's going to be truly just an amazing time. And man, bring your friends. Like, we always, as women, I love a reason to dress up, and we don't get very many of them outside of the Christmas season. So, it's coming up. Plan for it. Clear your calendars, make yourself available for the best time that you're going to have this probably spring.
Awesome. So, ladies, we always love to pray with you. Before we end, Father, we thank you for each and every woman. We ask that you would bless her, that you would show her that she truly is beautiful and radiant, and just a beautiful woman. We ask you that you would help her to hold her head high and release that light and love and her smile to those around her, and show her how to reconnect in her relationships. And we thank you in Jesus' name. Ladies, this has been an amazing time. We love you and we honor you, and we look forward to seeing you in person at our Midnight Bloom Menopause Gala coming up on the 27th of February, and possibly in Edmonton. Let us know. Like us and follow us, Ember and Bloom by R&R on Facebook, and we will see you online soon. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a